Well, they're winning games. I think they're playing better as a team. You know, they've some of those guys that will face Aguilar, Curse, Polk, guys like that have played a lot of football for them, and they're very, very experienced in certain spots. So I think offensively they're very explosive. It starts with the running back who can beat you catching it and running it. Very talented backup in Callier. I think their quarterback is, they lost the number 8 pick in the NFL draft, and Jake Locker, and Keith has come in and has really lit it up. And I think he benefits from 2 world veteran receivers. And then even the other guys, James Johnson, who's played a ton of football for him, is a third-year guy for him. And then a true freshman tight end in Austin Safarian-Jenkins, maybe the best young tight end in the country. So I think they've got a lot of weapons. And I think scheme-wise, Sark is really putting those guys in position to make plays. So.
Right. Nick Holt, defensively, what are they doing this year? Anything different than what they've done in the past?
Yeah, it's always a very movement-oriented group that will tax you. Seem like they're a little bit more athletic at the second and third level now. Guys that can run around. Again, they've got some veterans in there like Dennison and Almeida that have played a lot of football for him. Trufant's played a lot for him. Fellner's played a lot for him. So they got some experience there, mixed in with some youth. But it looks like the younger guys that are in there are real athletic and can run and fly to the football. So.
Rob? Coach Holt's been around the conference a while. Does it add any particular level of intrigue to kind of the chess match when you've gone against a guy and kind of shown each other quite a bit in the past?
Not really, no. We just look at each year as a different thing, and people have different personnel on a year-to-year basis. So, maybe what he was doing when he had the guys at SC is a little different than what he's doing with the guys there. But, when he has them that they're going to play hard and they're going to be intense just like he is and fly around to the football. But it's different just because everybody is different when they have different personnel.
Coach, you got to see Keith Price last year here. What did you see out of him in that game, and is he at all any different now?
Yeah, he's different now. He's just got more experience, but I was real impressed with how he played, how he handled the atmosphere here in Autzen. In the first start of his career, some guys really struggle in this stadium. It's a real difficult place for a first-year quarterback to come in and play, and I thought Keith did I was really impressed. I remember just walking off the field and that was a pretty good job by him. And then it seemed like he picked right up where he left off. Very, very efficient passer. He's thrown 22, 23 touchdowns this year. Doesn't turn the ball over very often. And it really seems like he's got a great command of what is a very diverse offense. They do a lot of different things on offense. But to do a lot of different things, you got to have a guy pulling the trigger that understands it. And it really seems like he has a great grasp of what their scheme is.
Yeah. How do you think the skill sets of Michael James and Chris Polk are similar and then different?
I think they're different. Chris is a different back. He's a bigger bruiser type guy. Different sizes, different. Probably Michael may be a little bit faster. But I think they're different in terms of what they bring to the table.
Coach, you faced a lot of good wide receivers this year, big wide receivers, another group of good wide receivers at Washington. How has your secondary held up, in your opinion, so far as we go into game?
I thought our secondary has played very, very well all season long, and I've been real impressed with. Even when passes are completed against us, there's a lot of guys around the ball, and they're limiting the yards after the catch. We got a young group back there, but they've accepted every challenge that they face, whether it's been playing against Arizona's groups or the groups at LSU, and it's going to do it again because Carson Aguilar and Johnson have been around for a while, 3- and 4-year starters that have played a lot of football for them. So, their knowledge of where to be, when to be, how to run routes and things like that is going to be at a very, very high level. But I've been real impressed with our young group in the secondary for all season long.
Let me just follow up real quick. Red zone defense, address that. How has that been in your opinion?
I think our red zone defense has been outstanding all season long. Our guys do a great job down there. And, we created 2 turnovers in the red zone last week against Washington State, and our guys make them earn it every way, the entire length of the field. I think, and I'm really happy with how we're playing down there.
Okay. During your time here, offensive coordinator and as head coach, is this the deepest you've been at the running back position with LaMichael, Kenyon, DeAnthony, and Trey, just guys who can essentially just come in and keep the pace going?
No. When I first got here, we had Jonathan Stewart and Jeremiah Johnson. My second year, we had 2 1,000-yard rushers in the Garrett Blunt and Jeremiah Johnson. And you throw in Andre Crenshaw, who's been a really good back, and Remine. So, You know, we've benefited by having a lot of really good running backs here, and I think that is a lot to Gary Campbell and the great job that he does in recruiting. So.
Michael in the mix to return punts this week, and could you also just, as a local guy, say a couple words about Chad Delaney and kind of what he did to put himself in position to punt for
Yeah, LaMichael's in the mix. He was in the mix last week. You know, they didn't punt very often. We get after the first one and they blocked it, and then just depends on how the game's going. But LaMichael is in the mix for us, and Chad's just done a great job. You know, the first thing about any punt returner is you got to be able to catch a ball. You know, you got to be able to secure it, and got a lot of faith and a lot of confidence in him. He's played in the Colorado game. Was out there in the Washington State game, you know, so he makes really good decisions out there, and has put himself in a position where, you know, there's 3 or 4 guys that we'll put back there, and Chad's one of them.
Brian, how much, if at all, do you feel the rivalry aspect with Washington in the intensity between the two schools?
We feel a rivalry with everybody we play. So, Super Bowl can't get bigger than that, right?
Nah, not BCS.
What's that?
BCS championship is bigger than the Super Bowl.
Is bigger than the Super Bowl?
For you, I would think, right?
Some people would argue that with you.
So it's just the same as any other team?
It's not the same as any other team. It's the biggest game in the world this week. I don't know. I'm not diminishing anything. It's the biggest game slated for us. We could care less about Alabama, LSU, or anything. It's our sole focus attention is on Washington, and we're treating it like we're going to play Washington in the Super Bowl.
Do you understand at all why this is a rivalry game for the fans, why it's more important than some of the history of what's happened in the past?
Yeah, I understand that. Yes.
And but that doesn't factor into any of your preparation? Or
no,
I
don't know why people continue to ask that question. Is if we looked at games and said, you know what, this isn't a rivalry game, guys, take Tuesday afternoon off, don't worry about red zone, and spend some time with your kids, and then come back tomorrow and let's go through a walkthrough and just wear helmets because this isn't a rivalry game, I think we'd get fired. We better look at every single game we play as the most important game that we're going to play, because you only get to play one game a week. So it's not like we're looking down the road against anybody, and you just look at the tape and turn it on Sunday and watch how good Washington is. So the rivalry game's great. I think the fans, and they can get after it and they can do all those other things. But if you have any coach in the country that looks at one game more important each week than another game, then they're not going to last very long. So, we've won a lot of football games since I've been here because every game we play is the biggest game that we play. And if we don't face it that way, you're going to get beat. So that's been our mentality. But it's not to diminish the rivalry. It's not to say anything about the fans. But I think when you start to set yourself up and you circle games on your calendar and say this game's more important than that game, then all of a sudden if you go out in that other game and you don't play very well, then you got nobody to blame except for yourself. Because your players are going to be like, Coach, well, you didn't think it was a really big game. You only circled these 2. So that's never been our mentality. Our mentality is we better play. And in this league, you better play every single week. And if we get caught up when the fans or the so-called media says that Washington State's not a really good football team, that's not what we said. And I said last week there was a much improved football team. And that team you saw out there last Saturday is a good football team. They got a great offensive line, a great defensive line. That was a physical football team. That quarterback put the ball on the money. Those receivers did a great job of playing it. But if I went into our game last week and said, guys, it's just Washington State, don't worry about it, but we got a big rivalry game next week, we probably would have lost last Saturday. So that's been our approach all single along. So it's not diminishing the rivalry. Our fans can go up and have as much fun as all they want. But for the day we start talking about our next opponent isn't a rivalry game, so let's take it slow, we're going to get beat.